This is the Miller Philosopher. So, I gave Rings of Power Season 2 a chance, and while I do see some improvements here and there, and it's still gorgeous as hell, I still have some issues with it. I said in an earlier video that in the first season that I didn't like how the long lives of the race of the Numenorians was never mentioned, since it was the key factor in their power and their eventual downfall. However, after watching a recent Nerd of the Rings review on the first 3 episodes of Season 2, and how they refer to Numenorians as supermen, it got me thinking. What if the reason behind avoiding their canon depiction was more than just simple ignorance or arrogance? What if this was about trying not to feed into the idea of promoting a master race story? Now, before you go apeshit on me about wokeness and whatever, hear me out. Thanks. The reason why this makes sense to me is because the story of the Numenorians is pretty much exactly that. The descendants of the Dunedain from the First Age, who were granted longer life, better education, and were physically taller and stronger than any other mortal men, or other mortals for that matter, in Middle-earth. And in my opinion, could hold their own against the elves if it came to that. Even their descendants in the War of the Ring, thousands of years later and in the next age, carry remnants of these qualities that is almost immediately apparent to other mighty peoples of the world at that time. That quite literally, they're built different. And yes, given the climate of today's society and the greater sensitivity that is given to having other communities given a chance to be represented in all aspects of society at large, right or wrong, the very idea of a super race of humans in one of the most beloved stories of the modern era can definitely come across as low-key disturbing and not translating well into 2024. I mean, we've already seen similar issues with this in regards to how Tolkien seems to depict women and how many feminists seem to view Tolkien as promoting a out-of-date and more traditional view of women rather than portraying them as being more than just princesses to be saved. And I've already done 2 videos, I think, on dismantling that idea, because that certainly isn't true either. However, this issue is not a woke issue with Tolkien. And in fact, it has come up long before the concept of woke was even a thing. Back in the 1930s, Tolkien had to deal with the Nazis wanting to twist his work into justification for their racial theory and using that to promote their own supposed superiority and the inferiority of other races, especially the Jews. The German publishing company that wanted to publish The Hobbit into the German language even wanted proof that Tolkien himself wasn't a Jew, because that was the race law in Germany at that time. And by the way, no, I'm not trying to gaslight current Germany, because current Germany is not like that, but history is history. That said, to all of this, Tolkien actually responded that he wished he was a Jew. Tolkien had also spoken about how he saw racism beyond Britain as quote-unquote horrifying, and that he even included South Africa in this point of view, and how he pretty much ranked it on the equal level of being horrifying as what the Nazis were doing. Point being that the idea of a master race that ruled the world of Middle-earth seemed like gold to the ears of ultra-racists during that era. But Tolkien always refuted it. In fact, it pissed him off that the quote-unquote noble northern spirit that made quote-unquote contributions to Europe was being misconstrued into meaning that he was promoting Nazi racial ideology. And I can guarantee that nowadays, if people read that quote, they might get similar ideas that somehow he might have been. Tolkien even goes so far as to say that the Gypsies were more Aryan than the Germans. And that hits hard, especially given that Gypsies are still looked down upon by many Europeans today. I know because I've been to Europe and I've seen this firsthand. I'll include a link to the article in the description if you want to read that for yourself. All that to say though, that in today's hypersensitive social media world, even the remote suggestion of something so vile as racism or a super race of human beings, no matter how much it's legitimately refuted and unfounded, is still disturbing enough to make some people want to rewrite and or omit problematic details that will result in loss of money, basically. Such as the idea of Numenorians being physically superior to other human beings. And make no mistake, this is about the money more than it is about woke ideology, especially when it comes to the studios. Because yes, you'll have loud Twitter activists calling out something like this as being about race and everything, but the studios don't care about that. They care about the dollar. Fortunately, most fans know that the story of Numenor and their descendants, Arnor and Gondor, is about how a people had a literal fall from grace, becoming prideful and evil in Numenor's case, or in the Dunedain's case, prideful and arrogant, that nearly results in not only their own genocide, but the destruction and or enslavement of the rest of the peoples of the world by Sauron. And casuals and newbies can easily Google this information just as easily on their computer and or phone screens as well. It's free information out there. It's 2024. So definitely don't let someone on Twitter or even a YouTuber tell you this shit as facts. Look it up for yourself. But I think that for the makers of Rings of Power, and I need to stress that I cannot confirm this, I still suspect that they may have found the source material of Numenor problematic for 2024, and that it would be easier just to change certain things around, such as changing the problem of Numenor to an issue of class division rather than the idea of desiring eternal life because they're already naturally superior anyway. And all this makes me wonder how they're going to make that work, and spoiler alert here, when they try to invade Valinor, because there's no indication whatsoever that the problem with Numenor and Valinor was about class division. Having said that, let me know what your thoughts are below, and again, please try to be civil about it. This is the Middle-earth Philosopher, and you guys have a good day.